Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 15th, 2017 City Council meeting. And at this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. And Chief, would you lead us in the flag salute? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Correa.
Here.
Johnson Sampsons. Lewis. Here. Silvera. Walter.
We do have a quorum. Okay. Let's go on to consideration of approval of agenda. Mr. Freya?
Move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Yes. Okay, it's in blue here. Here it is. Thank you. Consideration of approval of agenda. Have one correction or addition. Item 7H on the consent agenda, City Council Resolution number 5912, approving and adopting final track map number 2001-02 for the Mission Village South, Phase 3A, and accompanying subdivision improvement agreement has been requested by the applicant, Trevino Pioneer, LLC, to be removed. So, I'm sorry, Mr. Freya, would you please restate the approval of the agenda with that? Okay.
I move to approve the agenda with the removal of item 7H as read by the mayor.
Thank you. Mrs. Lewis?
Second.
Okay, motion by Freya, second by Lewis, with the removal of 7H. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? None carried. Let's go on to presentations. Recognition of entry awards from the VFW Post 2487 and American Legion Post 166 Veterans Day Parade. And could I have all the veterans that are present here this evening come up? First, let me say how grateful we are to all our veterans for their service. And second, to our Veteran and American Legion Post with the representatives we have here tonight for administering and putting on such a wonderful parade for the fourth year. Is that correct? Fourth year. And it's been growing every year. This year, the parade was under the direction, advisement, supervision of Patricia McCoy. And thank you, Patricia, for just a wonderful, wonderful job. Yeah, you had a bunch of men backing you up, but it's always that way, isn't it? Yeah, females out in front, males in back. Okay. Since I have a daughter, I like that statement. So, again, thank you so much. And now we're here this evening to present 3 awards. And those awards are to the parade winners. So with that, we would like to start this evening with 2017 Veterans Parade Los Banos Junior High School winner. Los Banos Junior High School. You with the certificates. The certificate on behalf of the veterans, Post 166, and American Legion Post 166, and Veterans 2487, correct? Okay, and you will also be a recipient of this flag, and the flag will be kept in your school for 1 year. Now, if you win again, you can keep it for a second year. So, but I have to tell you, or else these gentlemen are going to come, and you're going to be very sad, and they will remove that flag and take it to another school or the winner. So please work hard and let's do a repeat performance. So with that, I would like the principal to say a few words, if she would, and tell us exactly what you did to win this award.
Actually, I didn't do much to the float. I want to thank Miss Baker and Miss Norris and the student ambassadors, but those two ladies put a lot of time into the float, building it. Miss Baker took it and actually constructed it and did a fabulous job. And so without Miss Baker and Miss Norris, the float wouldn't have happened. They put so much time into it along with the students, but I will say those two ladies took the lead. They did all the work. Hours went into that float, and so I thank you.
Thank you. So are you going to deliver this to them, or are you going to give it to them tonight? Okay. Got it?
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Our second award of the evening, 2017 Veterans Parade Elementary School winner. And this goes to Westside Union Elementary School. For the second year. The principal of the junior high, by the way, a local person, Diolinda Brazil. Now we have another local, Joe McCullough, who is going to tell us a little bit about his
Thank you, Mike. It's my honor to receive this award on behalf of Westside Elementary School. But once again, I can't take any credit for this either. It was our ladies and gentlemen and our students from our ELAC committee that took on this job. Mrs. Ramirez headed it. Mrs. Marino backed her up, and all our great parents that worked extremely hard to put the float together. So, did you? Hey, thank you, sir. She's a keeper, isn't she? She is. They all are. And so we're very honored, and thank you guys for all your hard work in putting on the parade. Patricia, great job, and we look forward to winning it again the third year in a row.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you. All yours. Got it? Thank you. Good job. We had to arm wrestle off. You didn't take the velcro off, did you? No. I'm sorry. Knock you over here.
Okay.
Good job. Those are t-shirts, too. The last award of the evening, three of them, 2017 Veterans Parade winner, high school winner, and it goes to Pacheco High School. And tonight we have with us Mrs. Laura Barger, who has been in this community many decades.
Not as many as you.
That's 28 years, by the way. This was the girls' golf float. We've been the recipient for the last 2 years. So we're just like Westside in that we're trying to make sure that we continue on the tradition and make sure it doesn't leave our wall. It looked pretty blank for about a week. They came, like you said, they came, took it off the wall, and we went, what happened? So I've reminded everybody in the office that it will be back there up on the wall tomorrow. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Where to? Wait a minute, don't leave yet. The veterans we have with us this evening, I'd like to introduce Mr. Alan Cotta, Mr. Michael Hughes, Mr. Jim Valentine, and our coordinator, Patricia McCoy. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and we're looking forward to a great fifth year and even bigger fifth year. And thank you for the flyover, too. Yeah. So.
Notice you've got Patricia coming back again, so we'll have
Good.
another good parade.
Good, good. Would you like to say a few words?
Patricia?
Okay, I'll let you go.
Well, I had to make notes. So the 4th Annual Veterans Parade was dedicated to Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm. It was held the week before Veterans Day on purpose. We had over 65 entries in the parade, including over 40 veterans. The attendance by the community was very impressive and very much appreciated by all the veterans to have that kind of support from our community. The C-130 flyover at the end of the parade seemed to be very well received by the community, and we're going to keep trying to improve it every year. So, thank you.
We really would like to thank all the citizens of Los Banos for coming out and supporting the Veterans Parade and supporting all of the things that the veterans do in this community. And the flyover, just so that you know, one of our members happens to be the flight engineer on that C-130, and he has to go through great havoc every year because it has to go all the way to the Pentagon to get it approved. And so far, we've been the only parade that's had a flyover by this deal, and they just do it part of their training mission and get the permission to do this. So we want to thank David King for all that he has done for us in the last couple of years, because this is our second flyover that we've had. And thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for...
Now, one last thing before you leave. The wisdom of these ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you, is that to us and to them, every day is Veterans Day and every day is Memorial Day. So because we don't have the parade or hold the parade on November 11th, doesn't mean that it's any less a function. And because they hold the parade at the time that they do, we're able to get many more entries because everybody wants to do it on the 11th. And what happens, you kind of water down the entries that can go from one place to another. So by holding it a week earlier, it's still very much Veterans Day, and we get the benefit of the C-140 flyover, and we get the benefit of people being able to organize this parade, and this parade to be very large. So thank you for your wisdom in that respect. Okay. You don't have to leave. Mr. Morris, the attorney up here said they knew you were going to be here. That's why everyone's leaving. He's okay. Yeah. All right. Okay, let's go on to item 6, public forum. Members of the public may address the City Council members on any item of public interest that is within the jurisdiction of the City Council, which includes agenda and non-agenda items. No action will be taken on non-agenda items, and speakers are limited to a 5-minute presentation, and detailed guidelines are posted on the Council Chamber informational table. When you approach the podium, please state your name and city of residence. And I would remind you that if you have a cell phone, please turn them off or place them on vibrate. So is there anyone who'd like to speak at the public forum?
Hello, Council, Mayor. My name is Eric Lamone, resident of Los Banos, employee of Republic Services, and I am showcasing my new attire, new jacket, if you like. The reason why I'm here tonight is to talk about our delays of service for Thanksgiving. Next week, Thanksgiving will be held on Thursday the 23rd. There will be no service day on the 23rd, so if your pickup is on Thursday, usually you'll get picked up the next day on Friday, and again Friday on Saturday, so just want to make that note. Before I'm going to switch gears here, and I'm going to take off my Republic hat and put on my Los Banos Chamber hat of Commerce. I'm the president. I wanted to introduce Michelle Sandoval, our interim new executive director. So I should say new. So and I don't know if you want to follow up from me. You can't speak online. Anyway, thank you.
Are you going to go before me? Good evening, City Council. My name is Michelle, resident of Los Banos, representing the Chamber. The Chamber is welcoming 2 new members this month. First is the Dog Father's Grooming. He is located at the crossroads of Pacheco and Center Avenue. He offers pet grooming and a variety of other services from flea and tick removal, treatment, and teeth cleaning. Our second new member is Health Time. Health Time is a complete health and supplement store located downtown. The business owner, Kathleen, is very knowledgeable about her product and can help you find whatever you are looking for. The Chamber of Commerce is also getting ready for our Christmas parade, Friday, December 1st at 6 p.m. downtown Los Banos, the same route as last year. And the applications are printed and ready to be picked up in the office for anybody who's interested in attending that event as an entry. The Chamber office is also selling Christmas greenery for the holiday until November 30th. Orders will be received the first week of December. And this month's mixer will be held at Toscano RV on November 30th at 5:30. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and welcome, Michelle. Okay, Santa.
Okay. I'm Santa Claus. I'm from, I live in Christmastown. That's where I live at, Christmastown. And I'm here for Park Recreation. It's going to have a breakfast with Santa on December 2nd, the first Saturday at the community center, and I'd love to see everyone come and have breakfast with Santa and the picture with Santa, and it's a lot of fun. They have a lot of stuff for the kids to do, and a lot of Christmas memories is going to be happening that day. So I'd love to see everyone there from Justine, Los Banos, and Newman, and Los Palos, and Merced. Everyone's welcome to come to our breakfast at the community center. Time 8 o'clock in the morning, December 2nd, Saturday morning at the community center to 11:30 whenever Santa gets all the kids' pictures taken care of. And we wish everyone a happy, safe Thanksgiving, and see you soon. And we'll see you next month at the Christmas parade. And all a good night.
Thank you, Santa.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good night.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at the public forum? Hi, Ashley.
Good evening. I'm Ashley Williams, resident of Los Banos. I'm here with Habitat for Humanity, and I'm just coming to express my gratitude to the community at large and those of you who have come out and supported in any way you have. We get to see Al mostly because he comes and does inspections and that sort of thing. But I just wanted to extend my gratitude to the city for your support. Those of you guys who don't know Habitat for Humanity, it's a nonprofit organization that does low-income home ownership and repairs. Our motto or mission at this point is we build strength, stability, and self-reliance. So we see our program as one way for folks to help themselves out of poverty. And we just are really thrilled that the last time I was here, I was talking about studs, the bare minimum of the building process, and we're now with walls and roofs and siding. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys an update that things are going well. The one thing that many of you probably know is that Habitat is funded mostly by donations and any grants and those sorts of things that we can get, in addition to the income from the Restore that we have here in town. So ways in which you can extend your support further would be either to shop at the Restore, come out and volunteer, or make a donation, which we are most grateful for. And there's lots of folks in the room that have shown a lot of support, and so I just want to say thank you, and that's why I'm here tonight. So, thanks.
Thank you for all your good work. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at the public forum? Do you want to say anything? Okay. Not seeing or hearing anyone, I will now close the public forum, and we'll go on to item 7, consideration of approval of consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine, voted on in one motion, unless removed from the consent agenda by a city council member. And tonight we have?
Items on the consent agenda are as follows. Warrant numbers 207511 through 207801 in the amount of $1,413,466.87. Minutes for the November 1st, 2017 City Council meeting. Minutes for the November 7th, 2017 adjourned City Council meeting. Measure P Oversight Committee report. City Council Resolution number 5909 approving the copier equipment installation, training, and maintenance contract between the City of Los Banos and Lucas Business Systems for copier services through December 1st, 2022 in the amount of $2,250.71 a month. City Council Resolution number 5910 amending the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget by increasing appropriations in Public Works Maintenance Special Department expense account for bird nesting and tree pruning removal along H.G. Fawcett Canal Trail in the amount of $15,323.75. City Council Resolution number 5911 approving and accepting the second addendum to agreement for professional services between the City of Los Banos and Stantec Consulting Services, Inc. in the amount of $650,000. Item H was removed at the beginning of the meeting. City Council Resolution number 5913 authorizing award of the construction contract for the wastewater treatment plant headworks project to GSE Construction Company in the amount of $5,727,100. City Council Resolution number 5914 awarding the bid for the purchase of one new 2017-2018 mid-size sport utility vehicle, authorizes the Public Works Director, City Engineer, to issue the purchase order to Santos Ford in the amount of $33,569. City Council Resolution number 5915 awarding the bid for the purchase of one new 2017-2018 model split bed dump truck, authorizes the Public Works Director, City Engineer, to issue the purchase order to Gibbs International, Inc. in the amount of $130,092.50. City Council Resolution number 5916 awarding the bid for the purchase of one new 2017-2018 model vacuum street sweeper, authorizes Public Works Director, City Engineer, to issue the purchase order to Terry Equipment, Inc. in the amount of $293,724.47 and adopting a revised budget for the fiscal year 2017-2018 as it pertains to increasing expenditures for the solid waste specialized equipment account in the amount of $23,724.47. City Council Resolution Number 5917, awarding the bid for the purchase of 3 new 2017-2018 model medium-duty utility trucks, authorizing Public Works Director, City Engineer to issue the purchase order to Sanis Ford in the amount of $148,499.65. And the items are to be approved as submitted.
Is there any city council member who wishes to remove an item for discussion? Mrs. Lewis?
No, Mr. Mayor, there's nothing I'd like to remove unless there's something, council member. Okay, and with that, I'd like to make a request to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Mr. Faria?
I'll second that.
Motion by Lewis, second by Faria to approve the consent agenda as stated. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None carried. Okay, let's go on to item 8, presentation regarding the Merced County Violence Interruption Prevention Emergency Response VIPER program. And tonight we have with us Larry Morris, Merced County District Attorney.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Hello, Mr. Vaughn. As many of you know, and I see the chief, and I was thinking how bad my beard looked, and then I saw the police chief over there, and I thought, well, there's hope. What do you think? Yeah, thank you. As you all know, Merced had gone through an extraordinarily troubling period of gang violence over the last 10 years, actually, the last 12, 13 years. Between 2005 and 2015, Merced County was averaging 27 homicides a year. In 2013, 14, and 15, we actually had 30 homicides a year, which made Merced County either first or second in each of those years in the entire state of California for homicides per 100,000. Hello, council member. For homicides per 100,000 people. The reasons for this are myriad, as you might imagine. The economy collapse did not help. Merced always struggles with economic challenges, education, the usual things that can contribute to crime. But we were noticing a dramatic increase in gang-related violence within the county. As you all would know and appreciate, finances were extraordinarily tough. We needed to do more locally. The Board of Supervisors had a limit to what it was able to do, and the individual communities were also hamstrung to some degree by the economy. So we decided to look for help elsewhere. My former chief investigator, Pat Lunny, who some of you know, he was the longtime police chief of Merced and the director of the Division of Law Enforcement for the California Attorney General's office. Pat and I sat down one day a year and a half ago, and we decided that given Merced's standing, lack thereof, as first or second in homicides in the state of California, that we might be able to importune the state of California to participate in a pilot project to bring some revenue to Merced County for us to set up an intelligence unit. An intelligence unit dedicated mostly to identifying gang-related activity, sharing that information, and disseminating it out to local law enforcement agencies. We sat down, Chief Lunny and I sat down, and we drafted what became VIPER, Violence Interruption and Prevention Emergency Response Team. And we had learned over the previous few years, and with all seriousness, your police chief is one of the leaders in the Merced County law enforcement community. I think you all recognize what a gift you have in Chief Breezy, and he has been extraordinarily helpful in helping put this approach together. But we had done a number of major operations that were increasingly reliant on intelligence gathering, not more officers on the street. The usual response is we got to have more police officers, we got to put more police officers on the street. What we have learned from a number of operations is that intelligence gathering and dissemination is actually the progressive, state-of-the-art way to deal with the gang problem in our community. So, having put together the draft of the Viper program, we went to Assembly Member Adam Gray. And we asked him if he would be willing to sponsor legislation to try to obtain a pilot project, which, if worked as we believed it could, would be a model for other communities around California to possibly emulate. I worked in the legislature for 6 years. I can tell you that the legislature is loath to get involved in what it considers to be local issues. And Merced's violence problem, in the eyes of many in the legislature, is a local problem that we should be dealing with locally. However, due largely to the skill of Assembly Member Gray, his relationships, and his understanding of the legislature, he decided to seek that funding through the budget process. And having worked in the legislature for a number of years, as did former Chief Lunny, we understood the chances of us getting this funding were pretty remote, to be perfectly honest. I figured our chances at somewhere in the neighborhood of 10%, for the reasons that I had noted. When all was said and done, Adam Gray was able to obtain $4.5 million for a pilot project for the Viper program for a 3-year project, in which we would create an intelligence operation attached to the DA's office, but working with the Merced area gang and narcotics enforcement team, our magnet task force. So, the governor shocked the bejesus out of all of us and actually signed that budget request, and the $4.5 million, that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money to come into a community earmarked exclusively for a law enforcement project. The governor signed the budget, and we all of a sudden had $4.5 million to work with. One of the first things we did, Chief Lunny hired our new chief investigator, Bill Olson, who was a longtime commander for a number of Department of Justice task force around the country, or around California, I'm sorry. And Chief Olson was assigned to put the Viper program together. Almost immediately, the Viper team, and we hired 6 analysts. Bill was in charge, Chief Olson was in charge of recruiting analysts to come to this program. Now, again, we're not hiring police officers. We're hiring analysts, and we were able, I was concerned that we wouldn't get enough qualified people. We actually had an enormous amount of very qualified people apply, and we ended up hiring people with military intelligence and civilian intelligence backgrounds to work in the Viper program. And almost immediately we went to work on a major intervention effort dubbed Operation Scrapbook. Now, as you know, the 2 major Hispanic gangs in California, Norteños and Sureños, and Merced, because of its geographic location, is sort of in the DMZ of that. We're almost geographically dead center in the state, just a little bit north of dead center. So you have Sureños, Southerners, moving into Norteño, northern area. You have Norteño members that move south, and it creates a lot of conflict and results in a great deal of violence. We had done an operation a couple of years ago targeting Norteño gang members. That was extraordinarily successful. In the vacuum that was created with the Norteño members being taken out of the community, the Sureños began to assert themselves. So we targeted Sureño gang members. When all was said and done, after a 4-month operation, we executed what was called the takedown, and I forget the date, Bill. May 10th? On May 10th, and this is very impressive, we had over 600 law enforcement officials from around California, federal, state, local, law enforcement agents, the FBI, California Department of Justice, California Department of Corrections, Homeland Security, all came to Merced County donated their time, their staff, their efforts to help us do this takedown of the Sereno gang member after a 3 or 4 month investigation, which relied on wiretaps and an extensive intelligence operation. When we were done that day, and I can tell you the night before that operation, I was laying in bed with my eyes wide open, because when you have 600 law enforcement people coming and targeting dozens and dozens of gang members who you know are going to be well armed, the opportunity or the potential for there to be violence or mishaps is very, very high. But I would tell you that this was an incredibly successful operation, one of the most successful that this county has ever seen. At its conclusion, 65 gang members were arrested, and these are mid-level gang members. We were targeting people who were making decisions about the operation of the Sereno gangs in Merced County. 6 drug trafficking organizations were interrupted. Over 170 firearms, including dozens of assault weapons, were confiscated. 30,000 rounds of ammunition were confiscated. 10 pounds of methamphetamine and over $200,000 in cash were seized on this day. And what is, I think, especially gratifying to Chief Breezy and myself and Chief Olson is that with all of that, with 600 officers from around California coming to our county, we did not have one single instance of violence, not one single accident. No one that wasn't targeted was arrested. It was about as smoothly conducted an operation as anyone could ever hope to have, and it was a testament to Chief Breezy and Chief Olson and the others who were involved in this. It has put a significant dent in the operation of the Serenos. Many of them are still in our jails here awaiting trial on a variety of charges, homicides, gang-related violence. Some of them were sent to the federal courts to be prosecuted federally. But the result over the last couple of years, we're almost through the last 2 years, since we basically embarked on this model of engaging gang activity in Merced County, we went from 3 years of 30 homicides a year to last year we had 9. And so far this year we've had 13 homicides in Merced County, 13 or 14 homicides, of which only 3 are gang related. The object lesson here, ladies and gentlemen, is that if you identify the real movers and shakers within gang structure, you identify them, target them, and remove them from the community, your communities are going to be much safer. We are taking the demonstrated violent gang members, we are targeting them, and we are prosecuting them, and we are putting them in prison. So we have had incredible success with this. None of us really want to take a victory lap at this point on this with the Viper program, because we've all been around long enough to know that this can change very dramatically. And one bad weekend in Los Banos or Merced can change the numbers pretty significantly for violence. But we are very much encouraged by the model that we have adopted and that we are implementing in approaching gang violence. And we have essentially affected a more than 50% reduction in gang violence in Merced County in the last 2 years, something that you all can and should take justifiable pride in. And we believe is a harbinger of better things to come. One other thing that we are doing, which was part of the Viper program, and we believe part of what encouraged the governor to sign it, is we have set aside 10% of those funds, Viper funds, $450,000, which again is found money essentially, because it would not have existed without the governor signing the budget with the money and Adam Gray having pursued it, for what we're calling community engagement money. And the Board of Supervisors, I see my good friend Supervisor O'Banion here, he approved last month an RFP that we have put out to the community, the entire community, the West Side as very much a part of this, where we are looking for community-based organizations. We have identified hundreds of at-risk kids at risk of being enmeshed in gang life and gang violence, and we are looking for primarily community-based organizations, Boys and Girls Clubs, United Way, whatever organizations we have, to construct programs for mentoring, job skills, and other efforts to keep these kids out of the system. The success of the district attorney's office isn't measured by how many people we prosecute or put away. It's measured by how many people we keep out of the system. And I've said many, many times, the most successful thing I can do for the long-term safety of this county isn't to put as many people in jail or prison as possible. It's to get as many kids through high school as possible, because the studies show that high school dropouts are 8 times more likely to be incarcerated than kids who study or graduate from high school. So we are working, it's a carrot and a stick approach, but obviously we are trying to work very closely with local communities to get kids who are at risk and hopefully move them into environments which will give them a more meaningful alternative to life on the streets. So I thought it was important. I've been making a little tour and meeting with all the city councils, because the Viper funds are for the entire county of Merced. I wanted to present this update to the Los Banos City Council, and because I'm a lawyer, there's always an ulterior motive as well. The Viper program is a 3-year pilot project. At the end of that project, the money won't exist anymore. The state of California gave us $4.5 million. Our responsibility is to wisely use that money and to show what we believe is a model going forward for a progressive approach to gang violence in communities, hopefully one that will be emulated by other communities around the state. At the end of this, I will probably be back here, hopefully with the support of Chief Breezy and others, to ask for Los Banos' participation in continuing to keep the Viper program going. It is a sound investment in public safety for this community, as it is for every community in Merced. We don't think that it will be that steep of a cost. All the front-end costs have been paid, hiring personnel, facilities, et cetera, but there will still be an ongoing cost to keep this program. But again, without being too cocky about this, we believe the early returns are very promising and very encouraging. And at the end of the Viper program in 3 years, if we have continued to bring down the violence in our communities, especially gang-related violence, we will be coming back here and asking to build on that progress and asking for Los Banos. Obviously, Merced County can't carry that load in its entirety. We'll be asking every city in Merced County to participate in some way in helping us sustain a program that we believe has shown demonstrably that we can make a difference in the violence in Merced County. So I appreciate your time. If there are any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. Did I leave anything? Any questions? I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah, I would ask you, as soon as you have some kind of preliminary estimate on what type of funds you would be asking for, that you would contact the police chief, our city manager, and our finance department to see if that is possible, and again, give us as much leeway as possible to talk about this.
Mr. Mayor, your reputation as a bean counter well precedes you. I know that. I will be sure and make it as clearly as I can to what the cost will be, so that you can do appropriate planning, and hopefully that this will be something that is within the means of the city of Los Banos in a responsible way. So I certainly understand that, and we will be trying to give you a realistic number at some point that you could work with.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Mrs. Lewis.
Mr. Morris, I have a two-part question. On the May 10th
Takedown?
Pardon?
Takedown?
Takedown.
That's what
Thank
they
you.
call it.
On the May 10th takedown, was there a demographic of where all of these officers were within our county, percentage-wise? You know, was it 10% in Los Banos, 30% in Merced, or were
That's
there
a
numbers?
good question, Council Member. I think it was primarily on the east side of the county because that's where most of the Sereños had congregated, and they move very much around different neighborhoods there. And one of the things that the Viper program enabled us to do, and one of the things that contributed to the absence of any accidents or violence. I mean, you worry about some child that you didn't know about coming out from behind a door. You're going into these homes. I mean, we had 600 cops at 0600 in the morning hitting all of these residences simultaneously. They were all going out there, and they're going into places, obviously, with 170 firearms and gang members who have a history of violence. The potential for there to be violence is very, very high. So one of the things you worry about is a lot of kids are in some of these homes. And so what the Viper program enabled us to do also was to identify who lived in each one of those houses, so the officers that were going to these homes knew what they were going into in each residence. They had a count of who lived there, what kids were there. We had CPS representatives on hand to deal with kids that were taken in as part of the arrests that were executed. But in direct response, most of the arrests were made in the Merced, Winton, Atwater areas of Merced. Your chief would have a better idea than I would even of what the comparative distribution of Sereños versus Norteños is in Los Banos. This was primarily targeted at Sereño gang members, and it's the Hatfields and the McCoys with the Norteños, so we were really zeroing in on Sereño residences and neighborhoods.
And then lastly, you said that the state funding, was a one-time funding from the state to
Yes, ma'am.
Help this project move forward. Was there any discussion with Assemblyman Adam Gray that if this was successful, what the possibility of the state looking at funding other cities and continuing this kind of funding? I mean, certainly at this point, it looks like what you were able to accomplish with this is more than enough for the legislators to look at again to see if they can reduce the population of gang violence with at least those two gangs.
Well, as I know you appreciate, Council Member, the state is very stingy with its money going to local communities and counties for things that it considers to be local problems. What our best case scenario is for this program is if the success that we've enjoyed thus far continues, that we will maybe be working through the Attorney General's office, for example, to help create intelligence units in other areas of the state, that there would be more partnerships between local communities. We're hoping that we're going to be evangelists, and we're going to be out after this is done, and we're going to be going around the state and talking to communities and saying, hey, this was our situation, because we started at rock bottom. I mean, 30 homicides a year was literally number one in the state. I'll buy a fresca for any member of this council who can tell me if it wasn't Merced over the last 5 years, what the number one county for homicides in California was. If it wasn't Merced, it was one of these two counties.
Either Fresno or Alameda.
Everybody, Fresno, Stockton, Monterey?
Monterey.
Salinas.
Wow.
It's in Monterey or Merced were the counties that we were 1 and 2, but the 10-year average was 27. I mean, that's shocking when you look at counties our size: San Luis Obispo, Santa Cruz, Marin, Butte County. The homicides in those counties are almost always in the single digits or low teens. We were at 27, and it was growing. And so it was a huge concern. And you're either going to throw up your hands and say this is the new normal that we're just going to have to accept, 30 homicides a year, but it's not good for economic development, as you all know better than anyone. When you're enticing people to come to Merced County, they're looking at schools and safety, public safety and that sort of stuff. You have a crime problem that's out of hand, especially gang violence. It's going to, give people pause for concern as to whether this is a good community. We bring that down, opens up, in my view, a lot of other very positive things about Merced County.
More a comment than a question. Very pleased to see the program. And hopefully we can continue these kinds of operations. We had the big one years ago when Attorney General Harris came here.
Was here, yeah.
Yeah, that was the Norteño strike, and that was very heavily Los Banos.
That was very heavily Los Banos. Operation Red Eye? Red Right Hand.
It was quite noticeable.
It was huge.
And you could see the activity just.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing, and I'm saying all this in front of your chief, who knows this far better than I do. But if you get 10 gang members, there's only 1 or 2 of them, maybe, that are crazy enough to actually start opening up, at a house or shooting at a car. If you identify the people that are demonstrated to be willing to commit violence and you take them out of a community, you're going to see a difference immediately. I mean, you will see. And the same thing with the people who are the organizational ideas. I was signing search warrant affidavits every week during this last one, and one of them I'm looking at, and it's a search warrant affidavit for a guy that's in state prison. And I'm looking at this going, I sent this guy to state prison for murder, and he's literally in California Department of Corrections directing the economic and gang traffic from his jail cell in Merced County.
That's his office.
So, the network into the prisons and everything else. So this is why the intelligence gathering operation and apparatus that we've created gives us just so much more ability to anticipate where problems are going to be and respond very quickly to them. We always want more cops, that's necessary, but having intelligence, it's a little bit like Homeland Security or something else. Mm-hmm. Having the ability to tap into the intelligence is really the key part of the strategy.
Ounce of prevention.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Councilmember.
Mrs. Santos?
Hello. I have to echo Mr. Frias' sentiments by also saying that I'm pleased to see that this was such a successful takedown. But I wanted to ask, how do you find a lot of charges sticking when they go to jail, or do they end up cycling back out? Or
that's a very fair question. The charges in this case, one of the things that we did. This is the third major operation that we've done in the last couple of years with the cooperation of the Department of Justice. Operation Red Right Hand, Operation Red Eye, and then Operation Scrapbook. What we did in the first one, we arrested more people. We arrested 110 or 115 people, but we were getting a lot of lower level folks. As some of you historians know, the mafia was set up in a very business-like manner with very clear lines of responsibility and reporting and accountability. The Mexican gangs, the primarily Serranos and Norteños, they both started in the prison system. They're very organized and they're very structured and they're very much about accountability, that you are obligated to produce X amount of money, to get money back to people in prison, to put it on their books for them to buy things, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things we've learned is we were really trying to target, if you'll forgive the expression, middle management. And so this last Operation Scrapbook, we were really going after people that were involved in the business aspects of this. And so consequently, the charges that they faced, we cleared one cold case homicide in this thing and 3 others. That part of this being up on the intelligence and everything, we got information that enabled us to make arrests in outstanding homicides. So the people that we have in jail now awaiting trial are charged with the kind of offenses that bring serious prison time. If life or many, many, many years in prison, years and decades in prison. That's what was part of the metric of establishing the success of it, was that we were nailing people that were really in the decision-making part of this and taking them off the streets. Now, they could be acquitted, if they're jury trials or that sort of stuff, but the work that was done here, I'm reasonably comfortable that we are in very good shape of putting these people in prison where they belong. I mean, like I said, I prefer not to send people to prison, but those who demonstrate that they are going to, create havoc in our communities and are going to harm, everyday people or even other gang members, you got to get them out of there. You just have to get them out of there, and that's what we have really, focused our efforts on. So, I think most of those people are going down for significant amounts of time. God willing. We brought the number of homicides a couple of years ago. We had almost 70 people in the Merced County Jail awaiting trial on homicide charges. 70 people. I mean, I have 27 attorneys, including me. So we were just, it was like pushing a rock up a hill. We'd get a case, a conviction or a plea, and you'd have 2 more coming in. So we've been able to kind of catch our breath in the last 2 years when the violence has come down. And I think this year we've done 13 or 14 murder trials this year. So we've brought the number of people awaiting trial on murder down into the mid-30s, I think. And that's been our goal, is to continue to bring that down. So hopefully you're seeing some of it on your streets. And, like I said, your police chief is a very valued partner for all of us and well regarded in the law enforcement community, and has worked really well with all of us in putting the Viper program together. So I'm indebted to Chief Breezy as well.
This is year one?
This is the first full year, Mayor, yes.
First full year.
Yeah, first full year. We were working off the model before this, so we really consider it year 2, but with the funding to do what we needed to do, this is the first full year. Yes.
So we have 2 years left on the funding.
We have 2.5 years, actually, so we've got a fair amount of time. And if you all have, the RFP is out, if you know of community-based organizations here in Los Banos that you think have programs that are worth pursuing for intervention with kids, I hope you encourage them to apply, because one of the challenges in Merced County is we have comparatively few community-based organizations. There aren't a lot of them here. So we have this $500,000, which is an incredible gift, but we've got to put it out to people that have a proven history of being able to run effective programs that serve as many kids as possible. So if you're any over here, we want to put something on the west side. I know you're always a champion for the west side being, given the appropriate consideration that it's entitled to, and we are concerned about that as well. But we're looking for organizations that have a program that they'd like to propose.
I'm for equality for East and West.
I know you are.
That's all. That's always been my statement. So okay, with the encumbrance of the $450,000. I wish $450,000. How much of the 4.5 do we have left? Or I should say 4. That's good.
There was a lot of initial stuff.
Upfront cost, sure, I understand that.
And we're very, very cognizant of that. I mean, I'm not a budget guy by nature. I've got to understand how to run my own budget, but that was paramount in our consideration, is we have to make sure that we have enough money to run this thing for the 3 years. So we've been pretty parsimonious in what we've done. As Chief Olson said, there are a lot of startup costs with personnel, facilities, rent, all the kind of stuff to get it up. After that, the cost should not be that onerous. I think then it's just sustaining 6 6 personnel, bless you, sustaining 6 personnel, moving beyond, all the bones will be in place for us to continue to build upon this.
So by the end of 3 years, you will encumber that $4.5 million.
We plan to spend all of it if we can appropriately. I mean,
right.
We're not going to, recklessly spend money that we don't need, but we think we have a demonstrable need for the money and can find, needed and appropriate use. And again, your chief is a very staunch advocate for Los Banos needs. If you have areas or issues that you would like to see, all of the law enforcement agencies, as you can see, all the agencies supported by Viper, we are working with all of those agencies and making Viper analysts available to them. So if you have something going on in Los Banos where you're doing some sort of an undercover or a more extended investigation, Chief Breezy is going to be contacting Viper guys and say, hey, we need to be analyzing this data. I need to get a better fix on, where these guns might be coming from, where the drug, money is going or whatever, and that's what we would be helping contribute. But we're working with all of the law enforcement agencies in Merced County.
I will tell you that all the chiefs that we've worked with over the years, and now our present chief, the words mutual aid have come up. I can't tell you how many times. I've lost count how many times of how wonderful the mutual aid is in this county.
It is absolutely true, Mayor.
And they are brothers and sisters who take care of each other.
It's always the Department of Justice Office, the Bureau of Investigations in Fresno. They're folks, when they come down to our chiefs meeting, we meet every 2 months, and they routinely comment on how harmonious working relationships are, because it isn't that way in every county. I mean, there's a lot of egos involved and turf and all that sort of stuff, but they all like coming to Merced because we all work very well together and have an esprit de corps about how we're getting things done. It makes it easier for them, and it's helped us. It's helped us establish a good reputation in the, in law enforcement circles statewide.
Well, you have it.
Yeah.
You have it, definitely.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just add one thing.
Please come up to the microphone.
Chief Olson.
Okay, Chief.
If I can just add one thing that Mr. Morris said is, with respect to assignments, there's out of 5 analysts, 2 analysts are dedicated just to the west side. Those analysts are getting themselves entrenched with the information and data sharing with everything that's happening on the west side. They're strictly supporting law enforcement efforts on this side. One of the 6 analysts is a forensic only analyst, so therefore we have 5 analysts. The other 3 take care of stuff on the east side. So,
I'm happy for the mutual cooperation throughout all our county, and that's, we couldn't ask for any more to be fair throughout to delegate our resources throughout all of Merced County, and I'm glad you're doing that.
Well, thank you. I would encourage any of you, if you're interested, the gang task force, or you want to see what Viper, they're located together. It's an interesting tour to go over there and sit in and kind of watch and see what they're doing. Your chief would be happy to arrange, a tour for you and answer any questions that you might have about, how the analysts are working and exactly how information is being gathered and distributed. So it's kind of an interesting experience to sit and watch these folks work. So far so good. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions of Larry Morris? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. All right. Let's go on to item 9, public hearing. If you challenge the proposed action as described herein in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described herein or in written correspondence delivered to the city at or prior to the public hearing. Item 9A, public hearing. To receive public comment and consideration of the submittal of an application in response to the 2017 State Community Development Block Grant, CDBG. Notice of funding availability, NOFA, N-O-F-A, and solicit input on possible activities to be included in the application. And we are going to go to our Community and Economic Development Director, Mrs. Elms.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. So if you can recall, back in 2015 was the last time that we applied for this type of grant funding. So I'm going to start off with what is NOFA and CDBG. These are big acronyms that I'm going to repeat tonight, and I just want you to be familiar with those terms. So first off, the Department of Housing and Community Development, which is also known as HCD, provides a Notice of Funding Availability, NOFA. The funding is allocated to the state from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. And it is approximately, this year, they've announced $27 million available in Federal Community Development Block Grant, CDBG funding for 2017. So NOFA, the Notice of Funding Availability, is to benefit low and moderate income Californians, and there are various activities that are provided within the NOFA, the Notice of Funding Availability. This is for business assistance, micro enterprise, housing rehabilitation, home ownership assistance, housing acquisition projects, public infrastructure projects, public facility projects, public service programs, and planning and technical assistance grants. Within the NOFA, there are certain eligible applicants, so it's very specific on who can apply for such type funding and where those areas apply to. So first is for non-entitlement jurisdictions, and what that means is that it needs to be a city with a population of under 50,000 or a county with a population under 200,000. And that is not currently a party of an urban county agreement. That's when a city and a county have an agreement together to become an entitlement jurisdiction. The city of Los Banos, we do not have such agreement with Merced County, so we would not be eligible for that criteria. And if you don't meet any of those, if you're under the population criteria, you're not eligible to participate, in the HUD administered CDBG entitlement program. So what that means is that you have to compete with other jurisdictions that are also non-entitlement, and it's a competitive application process. The city of Los Banos, because we are under 50,000 population, we are in that category of non-entitlement jurisdictions. So anytime we want to be eligible for any type of community development block grant funding, we have to compete with other communities. There's 162 other communities. They are not only cities, but they're also counties that we compete with as Notice of Funding Availability comes out that we compete with. So, but for instance, the city of Merced, they are over the population of 50,000. They get a set-aside allocation of money from HUD every year for their CDBG program, and they are guaranteed that money every year and do not have to compete like we do.
Because of their population.
Exactly. So we're at 40,000 right now, and hopefully within a decade or maybe less, we could possibly be at that 50,000 mark. So the Notice of Funding Availability Basics. Their planning grant this year would be awarded up to $5 million total, and it is limited to 2 activities plus 1 supplemental activity. And if you can recall, back in 2015, the max amount was $2 million, so that it's been increased to $5 million is very encouraging and a step forward in progress. The national objectives are also criteria that must be met in order to be able to apply for this type of funding. So first, it needs to benefit low-income persons or households, and there are 4 objectives under that criteria, which I'll get into in the next slide. It needs to eliminate slum or blight, and there's 2 objectives to meet that option. or it's for an urgent need, and you would not need to use the notice of funding availability for that national objective, and the urgent need is handled in a real-time type of matter. So whether, so say an earthquake happened, that's an example. I know that HCD was ready and willing to help. There was a fire, I believe, out in Santa Nella that burned a trailer park several years ago, and HCD was ready to use CDBG funds to help with that project. So low-income objective. There are 4 objectives here that need to be met. So it's an area of benefit, and the threshold is 51%. Now, the City of Los Banos, we do not meet this 51% threshold in the entire city. We're at 36% low mod income. So our entire area would not benefit. And so we can, with that, we are very limited in the type of activities that we can apply for with CDBG. Not everything is applicable to us. It's limited to a certain census tract that's been determined to be low income, and that meets that 51% threshold. Another objective that can be met with low income is that it could be for a limited clientele, and seniors are an example of limited clientele. Or it's for low income households, and that needs to directly benefit those houses or households. And this would require income verification on a case-by-case type basis. Or it needs to create jobs for low-income persons on an economic development basis, so for economic development projects. And with this type of scenario, employees are the benefit. So they need to income verify that they're low income, and they also have to have a low-income employee for every $35,000 that they get funding from the state in. So slum blight objective is the next objective criteria from the national standards, and this comes from HUD. And it would be a slum blight area can meet that, or a slum blight spot. Our current contract status, currently right now, we do have a public services activity that we were awarded in 2015 with. We are awarded $300,000, and then we are also given general administration in the amount of $22,500, so for a total of $322,500 in 2015. This was for a contract code enforcement officer. This covers the salary and overhead cost of that contract officer. They provide property inspections and follow-up actions, and they also educate and enforce the Los Banos Municipal Code. And we'd like to continue that program, which I'll get more into in further slides. But if we are awarded in 2017 to continue this program, we would be required to prepare an RFP to procure an outside contract for a code enforcement officer. We'd have to go through that process. And based on our current contract, that would fund one officer in the amount of money that we'd be eligible for to apply for in 2017. Or if we're able to negotiate a new contract, we're hoping to possibly fund 2 officers. So we would, currently right now, we do contract with CSG. They were awarded the contract back in 2015. And currently right now, we've utilized over 50% of the grant, which is a criteria to be eligible to apply for a new NOFA. And this program has been successful through our police department in educating and gaining compliance through citizens. And it is specific in a certain census tract because, as I mentioned previously, the entire city does not benefit. It only applies to a low mod census tract. And we will completely expend this 2015 funding by September 2018. According to the terms of our contract. So the 2 activities that we're looking to apply for at this time would be, first one is public facilities activity. This would be a maximum award limit. It does allow for a maximum award of $5 million. It does allow for acquisition of new construction or rehabilitation. and it must support eligible CDBG public service activities. For example, a food bank or a fire station. I have future slides to explain what type of activity. This is just to let you know the award maximum amount, as that is a criteria of CDBG as a part of this public hearing process. And then the second would be public services activities. The maximum award is $500,000 that we could apply for. And this is funding for operating costs, including labor, supplies, materials, and items at that type of nature. And an example would be employment training, and we've used that service for code enforcement in the past. So we are looking at applying for public services. This would be the boundary. As you can recall, this is a census tract that we meet the eligibility criteria, the national objectives. This is for low mod income. The other areas of the city do not qualify for the low mod qualification. And so it's bound by Pacheco Boulevard to the north. So Pacheco Boulevard is the southern boundary. Badger Flat Road is the most western boundary. H Street and Wilmot Road are the most northern boundary. And Mercy Springs Road is the most eastern boundary of this particular census tract. So the 2017 NOFA application, we are looking at, we're asking City Council consideration for public service activity in the amount of $499,875. And it does break down for you within your staff report the activity service, which is in the amount of $465,000 that we are asking for, plus general administration, which the city is eligible for. That's 7.5%. And the amount, it's almost $35,000. So together, that gives us that almost cap of $500,000. As you recall in previous slides, the max cap that we can apply for within public services is $500,000. This would be, as I said, to continue our code enforcement program. This would be for a period of 3 years, as we do have to give the state a time frame of when we're looking to expend this type of funding. And we would meet the national objective with the slum blight area, and this is within Census Tract 22.01. That was that boundary in red in the previous slide. The second activity that we're looking to apply for is public facility activity. This would be in the amount of $421,400, and it is broken down for you within your staff report. The actual activity would be $350,000 with general administration, that is over $29,000, and then the city would also be eligible for activity delivery. This is only applicable on certain types of activities, and this is one that it would be applicable to, and that's $42,000. So altogether, that equals $421,400. And this is, we're looking at the time frame to complete this type of project, hopefully would be in fiscal year 2018-2019. So we would know if we are awarded by March of 2018, and we would be able to plan for that in that fiscal year 18-19 if we are awarded. This would be to rehabilitate an existing neighborhood park, and this is within Census Tract 22.01. Again, within that boundary in red, we are bound by that boundary to be able to use this type of funding. It would need to benefit low mod income residential persons. It needs to be in an area that is primarily residential. So when we are looking at various parks, it needs to be in a residential area, and it cannot be used for regional purposes. That is one stipulation of being able to qualify for the funding. And based on the census tract and the existing parks that we have, Big Page Park would be our number one choice of being able to apply, and where we feel that we would be the strongest competitive-wise to compete with the rest of the jurisdictions in the state of California to qualify. And so that would be Big Page Park, as I said. That would be to benefit low mod income residential persons, and we would purchase equipment and infrastructure for a splash pad. This would be a splash pad sprays water. They have ground nozzles. It's controlled with motion sensors. They run for a limited time, so they don't run 24/7, and they are not run in the winter time. But they are low maintenance and fun equipment that children can use, and it would be located on a textured non-slip surface. So we would go through a bid process and then go through the procurement and follow the state's guidelines if we were awarded such grant to acquire equipment infrastructure for a splash pad at Big Page Park. So public participation. Public hearing notices were published in the Los Banos Enterprise on October 27th and November 3rd in both English and Spanish. A public hearing was held on November 6th, 2017 at the Community Center, and members from Habitat for Humanity, Westside, were here, Ashley Williams, as well as Glenn Bowman representing Habitat were there, and were able to give input on activities and help with the design portion of the NOFA application. And then tonight's public hearing is a requirement also of the NOFA application. And there is a sign-in sheet that I would like to let you know about. It's back on the back table, which I'd ask that everybody would sign in, please, even if you are city staff. It is necessary to show CDBG that the public was here as well as staff tonight. And we did hold a public hearing. So CDBG funding timeline, I did want to just kind of give you some timelines of where we're at. So first, NOFA was released September 1st, and city staff, including our police chief, myself, my planning technician who helps write the CDBG application grant, and then our finance, our account clerk, one attended a workshop that CDBG put on just to gather information, which was very useful. So we did that last month. Based on those ideas, we were able to come back and discuss potential ideas for what we could do for this type of NOFA application this year. The NOFA application is due by 5 p.m. December 1st. And then the awards will be announced March 1st, 2017. So staff is, 2017, December 1st, 2017? Oh, 2018, you're absolutely right. Thank you, Supervisor Evanian. You're absolutely right, 2018. So staff is recommending that the City Council consider adopting resolution number 5918, approving an application for funding and the execution of a grant agreement for the 2017 allocation of the state CDBG program. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm here to answer any of your questions.
Okay. If it's all right with council, I'll open a public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry. If it's okay with council, I'll open a public hearing, and then we'll bring it back to council level. If you have any questions, we can go from there. Is that all right? Okay. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing on City Council Resolution number 5918, approving the application for funding and execution of a grant agreement and any amendments thereto from the 2017 allocation of the state CDBG program. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Not seeing or hearing. Almost. Now seeing someone.
Thank you. Ashley Williams, resident of Los Banos, and I'm here again with Habitat, and I was at the meeting that Stacy and her staff held, and I appreciate being included. And what I'm here tonight just to say is that I support the grant request that you guys have going on, and I respectfully ask that housing in the form of low-income housing and or repairs for housing in our community be considered either in this grant application, which I'm not sure that's possible since the due date is December 1st, or in the future. It seems like a very clear way for our city to be supportive of low-income homeowners, especially in the form of repair work, because you have folks that are able to afford a mortgage, but maybe not able to afford to replace their roof, or something like that. So the area that Stacy mentioned, the census tract, is a tract we're very familiar with. It's one we're building in right now. And I just want to kind of press upon those on the council tonight and staff members in present, just how important affordable housing is. And even though we may have a number like 36% or something of low mod in our community, those that are affected extremely in a way that many of us can't imagine. So I just really hope that if we're not going to include it in this year's grant, that those of you guys kind of keep it in your hearts that this is an important topic and it's very clearly in CDBG funding available for either housing, home ownership for low-income families, or repair work. So Habitat would be very interested in partnering with the city again, and doing what we can to improve the housing for families in our community.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Not seeing or hearing anyone, I will now close the public hearing and bring it back to council level. Stacey, is that possible to go ahead for repair work only, and in giving people who need a little hand up with repairs?
Well, Ashley is correct. We wouldn't have the ability to apply with this NOFA application for that activity in 2017. Also, our staff would not have the capacity to be able to administer that type of a rehab program. Essentially, the city becomes an underwriter. It's a loan, and there are income qualifying factors and very strict guidelines that the city is required to follow. And we, at this point, do not have the capacity to administer that type of a program, but maybe next year, the year, in the future, we'd be able to have the capacity to be able to administer that type of program and what it needs staff-wise to be able to accomplish.
All right. Thank you.
Can I make just a comment there? And I don't know if this is not possible.
I'd rather not, because then you'd have to come back a second time, and hey, I just want to be fair to everyone. Okay, Mrs. Lewis?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I really appreciate the grant that we received in 2015. It made some positive changes in our community as far as blight is concerned, and I'm looking forward to hopefully the city getting another grant again to take care of that in that particular targeted area. One of the things I would like to see, though, is possibly a report coming back to council so that we could see some measurable degree of change within that blighted area, to know what was done, what still needs to be done, and to give our community a sense of understanding as to how this grant money is being spent. And I'm hoping that here in the near future, we can get a report on the current grant that we have going as to what things have been cleared up, what things are still being worked on, and what things have not been tackled. So I think it's a really good grant. I'm really happy to see the progress that we've made in that. You know, I've taken the opportunity to drive around myself and look at some of the projects that were worked on, but I would like to see a report coming forth to City Council on how this grant money is being used in those areas of measurability. Thank you.
Mrs. Santos?
I wanted to ask about, I know you said it wouldn't be available this time around for this type of funding, but perhaps for next year's funding, if we were, essentially, how long would it take for us to put something together where we can perhaps even make it eligible for residents to apply for that type of assistance and things like that? Is that?
We would need to be awarded funding in order to start accepting applications. We do currently take a list, just general list that we have when citizens are interested in home rehab or first-time home buyer type funding, as the city did have those types of programs several years ago when we did have a redevelopment agency. So we do keep that as an active log, just to let us know, just to keep those folks on a list, and that we would reach out to them should funding become available. But we would need to be awarded in order to start accepting applications. The CDBG does have very strict criteria, and it is no activity can occur until an award has been deemed or given.
So if we, I know she did mention homeowners, but for instance, in some of the apartment buildings within that census tract, I know, like you're saying, we'd have to be awarded, but is there any way for us to reach out to them to get some of that area to look a more cleaner, be a little more cleaned up in that area? Is that possible I guess I'm kind of reaching a little bit, but is it possible to kind of get some of that together?
Yes, I think that is something we could do with our code enforcement program. That is their area, nuisances, blight in that area is a part of that program. So their coordination with property owners, property management companies would be a part of that program. So we could definitely do that.
Thank you.
Part of the discussions that we've had, Mrs. Santos, over the past few years. Remember when Fresno, we didn't want to be the poster child like Fresno was when they had all those apartments that were just literally slums and people were living in very substandard housing. And so we've been working, and I know staff has been working along with Chief Breezy to at some point bring us back an ordinance or a modification, and it basically is going to be passed with the premise that everyone deserves a nice place to live in, a decent place to live in where everything works. And so that's something I would just, along the lines of what we're talking about with code enforcement, that not in the distant future, in the near future, that we come back with an ordinance that basically is going to have an inspection program and an initial inspection program for every rental in town. And then if they don't meet that criteria, then inspections will happen until they do. So is that kind of what you're thinking too?
Yeah, just because.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I know that includes I Street, that census tract,
Yes.
and fortunately, there are some areas that could be definitely cleaned up a bit out there. And I know that we said we're not able to use this money this time around, but I hope in the near future we can make some type of plans to accommodate and help it look a little bit better like that, with also homeowners and, just trying to, see the beautification, I guess, is what I'm...
We can do that through ordinance. We don't need CDBG money because at some point, the property owners are going to have to pay for the inspections. And my thinking is that if they don't pass an inspection, they pay for another inspection. And so it could be a self-income generating program. So, I don't want to get off on a track tonight, but we need to do that to make sure that people have a decent place to live and landowners are taking care of their properties. So, and you are right about that area. It needs some help. And some of the landowners have done a good job of revamping their properties. I can think of one, Stacy and I both agree that this person does do a lot of work to make sure people have a decent place to live. And I want to see everyone do that. And maybe maybe complimenting those people publicly, those landlords publicly who are doing a good job is a good idea too. So I'm with you, and we do want to bring something forward to where there is going to be an inspection program.
Thank you.
Mr. Terrazas.
Just one comment, just in response to Councilmember Lewis. I think we could certainly bring an update on the current code enforcement effort and the use of the grant funds and the plans going forward. I will work with the police chief who's administering that grant. I would say sometime shortly after the beginning of the new year, we could come back to you.
And as a compliment to code enforcement, they've taken some properties that were just dismal failures as rentals and taken care of them, either by condemning them or making sure the necessary improvements are going to be done for safe, habitable residents. So thank you, Chief, and thank you, staff. Do you have another comment?
I just want to circle the discussion back to the CDBG NOFA.
Oh,
That's
think
all.
so?
Yes.
Oh,
please.
okay. Yeah, we're going to do that. Okay. So now we're back where we started to talk about the funds. Is there any other comments from council? Okay. Then, if there are no other comments, do I have a motion on resolution number 5918? Mr. Freya.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move to approve City Council Resolution number 5918 as read by title.
Okay. Mrs. Santos?
Second.
Motion by Freya, second by Santos to approve resolution number 5918. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None. Carried. Mrs. Lewis, do you have another comment? No. Okay. All right. Let's go on to item 10, advisement of public notices. There's no report tonight. We'll go on to city manager's report. Mr. Terrazas?
I just wanted to thank City Clerk's office for putting on a wonderful employee appreciation event last week. Great staff work by the clerk's team, and just thank all the employees that came to that event. Topped off by a pie eating contest. I won't circulate the photos to embarrass anyone, but it was a great event. I think we all enjoyed it. Thank you.
We don't have a preview up there?
Unfortunately not.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. Let's go on to item number 12, City Council member reports. Mr. Silvera is gone, and so we'll start with Mr. Faria.
Thank you, Mayor. Lots going on. It's our season. Choir doing we're doing Messiah this year. This year we're doing it at the Los Banos Arts Center, Ted Velasco Arts Center. It's on November 29th. It's a Wednesday after Thanksgiving. Tickets are $5 at the door. General admission is for everyone. There are no discounted admissions because seating is limited there. Should be great. We have alums coming back to sing. Junior high choir will be doing their concert on December the 7th at, my junior high, Creekside. I forget that there are two now. Creekside Junior High will be doing their choir concert on December the 7th and at the Creekside Multipurpose Room. We have the Christmas Parade, Santa Claus Parade, Friday, December 1st. You'll be a lot of music and activity there. Of course, choirs will be singing there too. Breakfast with Santa the next morning. Like to see everybody out, all these wonderful events. And thank you for the veterans for the wonderful parade. As I had said before, I was unable to attend because of a family funeral. It's great to see that happening. And happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Freya. Mr. Santos.
I also want to comment on the Veterans Day Parade. It was a wonderful event, and I was happy to be a part of it. Also, the Employee Appreciation Day. I am sorry to have missed it, but I would like to thank everyone for being able to help me, and I want to thank all the employees for all the hard work that you do. So thank you very much. And that'll be it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Lewis.
Yes, Mr. Freya, did you give the time of your concert?
Oh, no.
Wait a minute. Go ahead.
High school is 7:30, and junior high is at 7. So Messiah, 7:30, November 29th. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I had the fortunate opportunity to be able to attend the Employee Appreciation Day, and it was very enjoyable. And perhaps next year, just as a suggestion, I know that budgetary-wise, it costs money to do that, but I think we could do something just like that in the evening so that all the employees can come and enjoy the evening of being recognized. But it was a good pie eating contest. One person didn't finish because it was overwhelming to try to eat one of those pies, but I kind of got nauseated watching myself. But it was a really good event. I enjoyed it, and thank you to all of our city employees and every department for all the hard work that you do. We couldn't operate this city without you. It's an outstanding job, and I think we have some of the greatest employees in the state of California. That's just my personal opinion for our city size. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Be safe and enjoy your families. Thank you.
Thank you. Same thing, just very short. The Veterans Day Parade takes a lot of work, a lot of coordination, and people willing to give a lot of time in order to put that on. It was absolutely fantastic this year, and looking for another bigger and better one in 2018. And employee appreciation, it's so nice to see that. Thank you to all who put that on. I don't want to miss any names of all the people that worked on that, but it was a great event, and just to show employees, all employees, the people who work on it, to administration, to all employees in Los Banos. Thank you so much for what you do to make this a good city. So with that, we're going to go to closed session. Conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, property located at 1111 Cheese Street, Los Banos, California, APN 026-161-003, 026-161-008, portion approximately 6.4 acres, city negotiators, city manager Terrazas, city attorney Vaughn, city finance director Williams, Police Chief Breezy, negotiating party Sam Watson under negotiation, purchase price and terms of sale. If there's anything to report, we will do so later, and I'm going to read item 14 now. Please note that the next regular City Council meeting of December 6, 2017 will be held at the Los Banos Community Center, Grand Room located at 645 7th Street, Los Banos. Also, at 6 p.m., we're going to have our yearly December 6, 2016, our yearly annual holiday open house. The council meeting will start at 7. The open house, Christmas open house with good food, will start at 6 p.m. In the area just outside Los Banos Community Center Grand Room. So we'd love to have you. Please come, tell your friends, and we are going to be honoring a local talent who just received a number of awards nationwide for his country and music songs. So, and he will be there at the December 6th meeting. We'll be honoring him with a proclamation. So please come to that event. So with that, we are going to adjourn to closed session. If there's anything to report, we'll tell you later. Thank you.